It's been
Hey there! Welcome to Exposing the Hidden Reality. I'm Annette, career reinvention coach and caffeine-powered human.
And I'm Sandra, women's life and leadership coach. I bring the woo to our conversations.
And this is the podcast where we call out all the unspoken stuff, biases, outdated expectations, and all the things women navigate in work and in life.
Yes. We bring to light what we see happening. Smart, capable women stuck in the same patterns because no one really talks about what's going on.
We'll bring some difficult truths.
Welcome, insightful experts.
And sprinkle in a little chaos and fun.
It wouldn't be us if we didn't, right?
It's true.
So whether you're walking the dog or tuning in during your commute, we're glad you're here. Let's do this.
Let's do this. You want to do the let's do this together? Like 3, 2, 1, let's do this. All right, 3, 2, 1. Let's do this. Good morning, everybody. We're doing it. We're doing the thing. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. If you're here in the US, you had a great Thanksgiving. And now after all the Black Friday, Cyber Monday hangover is hanging over, we're going to bring you this wonderfully energetic woman that is going to talk with us about unfunking ourselves. And I'm assuming I'm going to mess that up at some point during this conversation. So Emily, we are so thrilled to have you. Can you please tell us a little bit more about you?
Hello. Oh, I'm so honored to be here. And thank you. I'm digging that like intro music, that like retro sort of throwback. I was like dancing. No, this is great. And thank you for taking time to chat with me and inviting me here. This is very cool. I'm really bad at introducing myself. You would think that after however long I've been doing the work I'm doing, I have like this elevator pitch down, and I don't. So I'm Emily Hampton Morash, and I do a lot of things. I'm an author. I am a workshop facilitator. I'm an emotional intelligence educator, mindfulness educator, relatively silly human, mom, wife, dog mom. So yeah, and I'm really heavily focused on bringing mindfulness into the workplace, and which then filters out into greater community. But I'm like hell bent on getting people to be self-compassionate and to better focus in a mindful space. That's me.
So
that was a terrible intro, but
it was a great intro. You were good.
But that's who I am.
So you know what, Emily, what strikes me is a conversation we had before we came on and this theme of mindfulness. So I'm going to tee it up for you, and then I want you to run with it.
Please.
So I read a book years ago, 10 Minutes to Happiness or Greater Happiness. And it's all about meditation and the whole idea that if you're using meditation, even just 1 minute of meditation is so helpful for grounding yourself and bringing you into your understanding where your body is and your nervous system regulation. And right, because it feels so woo-woo, and it shouldn't, right? He was talking about all the different organizations that are using mindfulness training. And the military is one of the places that he talks about. And that was a thread we were talking about before we got on. So there you go. Take it away.
So, wow. Okay. So mindfulness, let's back up, because mindfulness has become a buzzword. And when things become buzzwords, they become diluted and their actual meaning gets lost. So mindfulness is, so according to John Kabat-Zinn, and if you don't know who he is, he's like the granddaddy of mindfulness in modern America. He's great. And he says that mindfulness is allowing awareness to arise in the present moment on purpose, non-judgmentally, by paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. And on paper, that's like, oh, that sounds so great. Yes, I can be mindful. But what we have to bear in mind is that we actually don't allow awareness to arise in the present moment on purpose because we're not paying attention and we are hella judgmental. And it's not because we're terrible people, it's how our brains are wired. So we got to talk about a couple, I got to get like kind of nerdy. So hang on, y'all, bear with me for a second. Our brains are hardwired to be emotional before logical. It is absolutely how human beings have survived the various millennia. Our limbic system, which is where your amygdala lives, and your amygdala is the part of your brain that's responsible for fight or flight. There's actually 6 responses. There's fight, flight, freeze, fawn, flood, and faint. And so when we are presented with really stressful stimuli, our brain determines what the proper response is, right? So the amygdala sits inside the limbic system, which is constantly scanning our environment for, am I safe? Am I not? And it's not just our physical safety, it's also our emotional safety. And your limbic system is fairly primitive, so it responds the same way to a physical threat as it does an emotional stressor. Mm-hmm. So, like, here's a practical example. If you get an email from somebody and you interpret that email as harsh or attacking or aggressive, your limbic system, your amygdala, is going to respond the same way as it would if there was like a charging Doberman. And your limbic system goes and tells your survival brain, like, gear up, we gotta go, right? Yeah. And so what's important about understanding this is that there's an inverse relationship between your survival brain and your executive functioning brain. So when our survival brain gets all geared up because somebody gave us a side eye in a meeting, or we got like a 1-line text message from somebody, and our limbic system is like, holy cow, you are in trouble, and tells our body that we got to get ready to like fight or flee, our logic center diminishes. So why am I saying all this when we're talking about mindfulness? Because if we do not stop ourselves, if we don't pause in that moment of emotional reaction, which is what that is when our limbic system is like, oh my God, we're freaking out, right? If we don't learn to pause, we cannot let awareness arise so that we can pay attention on purpose in the present moment and then not judge the moment. Man, this is work. I mean, it is a practice. So when we talk about mindfulness and meditation go together. They're not necessarily the same thing. Though I would never say to somebody, yeah, I don't need to meditate. Yes, you do. Everybody needs to meditate. And it is not woo-woo. Oh, for the love of God. It is not woo-woo. It is, we think it's woo-woo because we've gotten to a point in our society where it's like, are you stressed out? There's a pill for that. And listen, I am not saying don't take meds, because honest to God, thank God for modern medicine. But sometimes you don't need pharmaceuticals. Sometimes you need to stop and breathe and like pause. You wouldn't run a machine 24/7, 365. We feel like we should run our bodies that way, and women absolutely feel that way. And that's a whole different rabbit hole that we'll probably go down in a little bit. But so breathing techniques, and it's funny that you mentioned the military. Yeah, there's this really great breathing technique that I teach my clients and in my classes, and it's box breathing. It's where you inhale for a count of 4, you hold for a count of 4, you exhale for a count of 4, and you hold for a count of 4 again, and you repeat that at least 10 times. It's very calming. You're doing a few things. You're oxygenating your body, which is very helpful to reduce stress. You're also focusing on counting, because in your head, you're like 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're focusing on counting. So you are not thinking about the thing that was stressing you out that got you to the place where you needed to breathe. And you actually relax all your muscles and you alkalize all your system while you are breathing this way. And what's wild is that the Navy SEALs use this technique. So if the Navy SEALs can use this technique before going in and taking out Osama bin Laden, you can use this before you go into a board meeting. So it's important to, our bodies are amazing machines, right? And we have to take care of them. And the best way to take care of your body is to rest. So breathing, pausing. When you get a one-line text message, don't freak out. You can actually pause and be like, what am I assuming? What am I interpreting from this message? What do I think this means, but what does it actually mean? And how do I find out what it actually means? And so there's a lot that goes into being mindful, but it really is the pause is the biggest practice. And the what am I telling myself? And what am I thinking? And where is that coming from? But a lot of us don't do that because we've got our foot on the gas all the time, especially women. That was a really long answer to your question.
No, I think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it covered a lot of ground. And you have a comment here. Mindfulness isn't a luxury. It's a strategic advantage. Thank you, Shemras.
100%. No, it's not a luxury. And yes, it's strategic, but it's also like truly survival. And when we're navigating all these various relationships that we have, if you're not mindful, you're missing a lot. And I certainly don't want to go like traipsing down like a socio-political path, but we have become so mindless and so knee-jerk because we rely heavily on social media and digital communication that we are losing the ability to observe, and we're losing the ability to be curious. And we live in echo chambers. And so, yeah, it's not a luxury at all. It is a necessity, 100%. Yep.
Yeah. I think that it's important to understand that even though we're in this echo chamber and we're not very good at observing anymore, that it is something as quick as slowing down for a minute.
Yep.
Taking a few deep breaths and then coming back and saying, okay, what am I even dealing with? Right. Like, what is it that has to be done? How many times do you find yourself reacting to something that doesn't need a reaction? Like, it might not even be an email for me, or it's a spam email, or So we're caught in this cycle of always feeling like we owe someone something.
Right. And the reactivity, if I don't do something right now, it's like living in the text message world. And, there are some professions that they do require like immediate response all the time. Right. But that's not everybody. And so, I mean, goodness, there are a lot of complexities to this whole piece of like, well, why do we do that? Well, we do that because our limbic system needs connection. So human beings are wired. We are hardwired to connect to one another, right? It's tribal mentality. Eons ago, if you were solo, the likelihood of you dying from exposure or being eaten by something was really high. So you found your people so that you had protection and you had community. And so we are hardwired to connect to each other. Ironically, we are also hardwired to be skeptical of anything that appears different, right? Because it could be a threat. And so this is where the mindfulness piece, that pause and that you just referred to, comes in really importantly. Is if something appears to be a threat, but like, is it because their accent is different than mine, or their skin color is different than mine, or the clothing that they're wearing is different, or the music they're listening to is different? What am I judging? What am I looking at? And what assumptions am I making based on what I'm seeing? And then where are those assumptions coming from? And then why am I adding judgment to that? Right. But we don't ever stop to think, what what am I what am I even thinking here? We just have the assumption and we run with it. And so, and never look back and go, wow, that was kind of a knee jerk. I'll bet those people are actually pretty cool and I didn't even take time to meet them, right? And I mean, are you gonna run into jerks? Yes, you are. Like, you're gonna. And they're jerks for a reason. And here's a secret, it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Someone else being an asshole has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them. But we also tend to personalize other people's behavior because our limbic system is trying to figure out like what's their deal, right? And we're terribly insecure because that's how we're wired. But like we've got to learn to slow down and observe and ask the questions. What am I thinking? What am I running on assumptions? What do I think I know? What do I think I know about these people? What do I actually know about these people? It's like, you know things, and then you don't know things, right? But then there's a whole lot that we don't know. And that's where that curiosity and observation really need to come in so that we can be much more mindful. And the more mindful you are, the more calm you are. The more calm you are, the more focused you are. The more focused you are, the more strategic, and the more strategic, the more successful. And so in anything, parenting, friendship, work, anything, it's the remaining calm that's hard because our brains have little tripwires, right? So yeah, it's important to be able to pause and question yourself. And a lot of people don't like to do that, or they've never learned how.
I think in the work that I do, one of the things that I often see, and I'm curious if you see it too, is that it's hard to sit and just allow without judgment. It's the without judgment piece that people struggle with. And I work primarily with women. So I know it's the same for men because I am raising two of them and I'm married to one. So, but it's I suddenly realize that I'm feeling a particular way and I'm judging myself for feeling that way rather than simply saying, oh, that's interesting. I wonder. And getting curious about that. And then, so we stop ourselves before we even get to the point because it's like, I shouldn't be feeling that way. Or, oh my gosh, like, why did that just jump in? And rather than allowing the thought without judgment and then getting curious about it.
I do see that a lot. So it's interesting. This comes from societal conditioning. We were taught that being emotional is weakness. And I have to remind people that being emotional is human. And I mean, unless you've been lobotomized or you are like part android, like you are going to have emotions because that's how we're built. And it's the emotions that allow us to connect with people, right? And so people have to let themselves feel the feels. So this is where things get hard. Like this is where things get challenging in the mindfulness space. Most people are their own worst critic, right? I work with a lot of women as well. I actually work with all sorts of people, but I definitely do a lot of this work with women where I'm like, so if your best friend spoke to you the way your inside voice speaks to you, would you want to be friends with that person? And I see more tears when I ask that question. And I'm like, the answer is no. And you're beating the shit out of yourself for no reason. You're holding yourself to some standard that isn't real, that came from somebody else's story, and you bought it and ran with it. A lot of these expectations of perfection aren't our own. They're somebody else's. I don't know, social media, mass media, marketing. Oh my God, like I'm almost 52, y'all. Woo. And according to, society, I should still have no wrinkles, no gray hair. I should be a size 2 with muscles, whatever. It's like, I've had kids. I work full time. I really like bread. Like, do not come at me. I have smiled my whole life, so I've got laugh lines. Like, I don't want to look like some kind of porcelain, whatever. Like, come on. And so, so somebody else's story is, well, you're failing because you look your age. I don't act my age. I have the sense of humor of like a 15-year-old boy. It's a problem. But like, it's bad. It's fine. But we are, and especially women, but men do this too, okay? Like everybody is susceptible to the psyops that we're experiencing from all over, that we're supposed to look a certain way, we're supposed to act a certain way. Oh my God, this whole like masculinity issue that men are trying to navigate right now is insane. But once you start having a feeling, squash it. You can't actually do that. So y'all in the audience that are listening, I need you to understand this. You cannot suppress emotions. You think you can.
Right.
You think you can. And where that's coming from is it's coming from your executive functioning brain. It's coming from your frontal lobe, where you are trying to logic yourself out of a feeling. The problem is, when you look at the human brain, it is your limbic system that is driving the bus. Like your logic system is kind of like hanging out in the back of the bus, and every once in a while it's like, I have an idea, and the limbic system's like, okay, maybe I'll allow it, right? But really, your emotional brain is at the wheel, and your logical brain, oftentimes, as Brene Brown tells us, is hogtied and thrown in the trunk, because that is how we're wired. So you think you're suppressing emotions and taking control and you're being logical. And it's like, actually what you're doing is you're pushing all of this stuff into your subconscious, where it's going to fester. And then it comes out as nightmares, panic attacks, anxiety attacks. It also, there's no wall between emotional health and physical health. So then we start grinding our teeth or chewing on the inside of our mouth, and things we can't see, like stomach acid increase, and our intestines start to slow down. And actually, this is a fun fact, your colon will start to restrict. And then when your colon starts to restrict, it sends out signals to your body that something's going wrong. So what does your body do? It sends out a bunch of water. So you want to know where that diarrhea comes from when you're anxious? That's where it comes from, because we're not actually processing the emotions that we have got to process. Everything is a process. You have an emotion, you need to process it. We've been trained, conditioned, taught that like we don't do emotions, and it's like that's the biggest load of shit ever. We are emotions. We walk around in emotions all the time, not bad emotions. And really, there are no bad emotions. I'm using air quotes again. There are no bad emotions. They are just emotions. So Sandra, when you say not judging them, that's the hardest part, because we have been conditioned that emotions are bad. Like if you get too excited about something, calm down. If you get sad about something, oh, positive vibes only. If you get angry about something, oh my God, you're making a big deal out of nothing. And none of that is accurate. It's you are feeling the feelings that you feel. Wow. And they're real, and they're coming from a place, and they're a signal for you to pause and go, what's happening right now? If you're feeling particularly overjoyed about something, well, like, hooray, right? But like, why? What is it about this experience that is causing you to feel this elation? Because man, that's a good feeling, right? So how do we catch that feel again? And then if you're feeling angry about something, what's really happening? So another little fun fact, anger is not a pure emotion. It's a surface emotion. And usually when we're looking at anger and fury and those sorts of things, when you drill all the way down, you're looking at either fear or hurt or a combination of both. So it's the ability to sit and go, I am feeling really angry right now. And I want to figure out where this is coming from and what is my root emotion. You can't run from emotions, again, unless you go get lobotomized. I wouldn't recommend that. That's not a fun way to live, right? So you're going to have emotions. They exist, and they are lessons. They are signals. They're telling you something about your surroundings, right? So to be like, I feel angry right now with my spouse. And then you sit down and go, why am I feeling angry? They didn't empty the dishwasher again. The damn dishwasher every freaking day. We run the thing every day. Every day the dishes are clean. Every day I'm the only one that empties the dishwasher, and that makes me angry. Okay, that's cool. Now what? So have you said to your spouse, hey, can you empty the dishwasher? Or, right? So what are you actually feeling? And really what that is I feel hurt. I feel taken advantage of. I feel like I'm the only one in the house that does anything. That's where that's coming from. So the anger is actually hurt. And the hurt, once you figure that out, it's now that we figured that out, what's the solution for that? And so if you sit and you're like, oh, okay, well, I just have to get over it. I mean, somebody's got to empty the dishwasher, so I guess it'll be me again. And then we sit in this anger, and the anger turns to resentment. And then we don't do anything past that. Guess what? You're going to live in that cycle, constant. And then that's going to cause a fight. And really, your spouse might be like, oh my God, they got to the dishwasher again. I didn't even think to look at the dishwasher. So a really great phrase that I enjoy greatly, maybe I can say great one more time, is never assign to malice what can be explained through ignorance. So I'm gonna go back to our brains for a second, that limbic system. Again, remember y'all, it's primal. It is immature, it is insecure, it is incredibly important. Yay for it, because that's the thing that's like, you're in danger, move, right? And so, that instinct that we have where we're like, we're not in a safe place kind of thing, like we need that. However, it sometimes is it's just a little overzealous once in a while, right? So, when we're faced with something that feels hurtful, or we interpret it as hurtful, we tend to personalize a lot of things, like my husband is clearly not emptying the dishwasher on purpose. He just wants me to do everything. Is that actually accurate? And listen, if that's actually accurate, you're in a different situation, and that's a different problem, right? But more often than not, that is not the case. You have somebody that's way more attentive to things than others. Like in our marriage, my husband is on the lawn. Like, our lawn is amazing, and he finds all the weeds and gets rid of them. I don't even see them. But he doesn't come in the house and be like, well, good Lord, Emily, thanks for ignoring the lawn again, right? Because that's not a thing that I look at. But if he were like, hey, can you come with me around the yard and like pull weeds and stuff, be like, oh yeah, sure thing. That's just not a thing that's on my radar. And so not everybody's radar is the same. But one of the things that what we tend to do is personalize, because our limbic system is immature and it's insecure, it's scared of everything. Is we personalize the things. Oh, they're doing this on purpose. So don't assign to malice what could be explained by ignorance. People aren't out to get you. They're really not. They're just not seeing the things the same way you are. And that's a really important thing to remember. And I keep saying this, but I want to bring it up again. So our amygdala, right? That's where your fight or flight sits. But it's also where the memories of previous fight or flight experiences live, which is why like once you touch a hot stove, you don't do it again, because your brain's like, oh, I know this, stay away. But you got to remember that your amygdala is your fear center, okay? So if your limbic system is responsible for surveying your world and constantly all the time, like it's nonstop, it does not stop doing this. You are constantly scanning, right? So if you're constantly scanning and your amygdala is the one that's filtering everything, you're actually filtering stuff through your fear center, which means that if you're not mindful, you're going to have a negative, insecure slant on things that are unfamiliar.
Yes.
So that whole allowing awareness to arise, right? The observation by paying attention on purpose is incredibly important.
Yeah. I want to give Annette a chance to jump in here too, but I feel I have to jump in on what you just said. And one of the things that we often fail to understand is that our amygdala are centers that process fear and danger, are sensitive to visual cues. They're sensitive to smells. They're sensitive to things we may not be conscious about, like, oh, it's the anniversary of somebody's passing, and I'm feeling particularly sensitive, but I don't realize I'm feeling particularly sensitive. And the value that can come from just stopping, noticing, breathing is not only regulating your nervous system again, but that's when those small insights can come in. Oh, I smelled my dad's aftershave.
Right.
And it's a year since, you know, and that's why I am having this reaction. And I didn't realize it until now.
I love so much that you just brought that up. So life, our life, your life, everybody's life is a multifaceted, multisensory, persistent experience.
Yes.
Whether you're sitting at your desk, clicking away for however many hours, right? Or you're in the car, or you're taking a walk with your dogs or whatever. We are constantly thinking. Your subconscious brain is constantly going. It is constantly processing. And so when we encounter a scent, an article of clothing that somebody used to wear, a song, everybody, y'all in the audience, you need to like raise your hand or something. Have you ever heard a song and you legit were like in your brain back in a very specific place in time? The smells will do the same thing. Just a little aside, I went into a building. I was doing a book signing, and I went into this little area, and the smell was the smell of my elementary school library. And I had this moment. I was like 5 years old again. I'm like, oh my God, that smell, right? And like the school pizza smell, there's something about it. So, don't eat that. It's not healthy. But
it's not, but it was so good at the time. Yeah, for sure.
But we are constantly surrounded by all of these stimuli, and it's not a bad thing. And so, yes, there are moments where something tugs at our subconscious, where it's like, oh, that was my late father-in-law. That was his cologne scent. That reminds me of a friend of mine that I lost. You know, I moved back to Rhode Island recently. We were gone for a few years. I moved back. And so I'm driving through Providence, which anyone who's up here, y'all, Providence is a hot mess. Love this state, but man, our highways could use a little work. And I passed this radio station that I used to listen to, because people still listen to radio stations. Isn't this, it's just, everyone's like, nope, I do a podcast in the morning, but I'm driving past and I was like, and it reminded me of a friend of mine that I had lost back in 2019. And so this friend of mine, we had actually had a falling out. And both of us are like hella stubborn. And so we just were like, I'm gonna be mad at you longer than you're mad at me. And then he died. And I was like, well, you won. All right.
Definitely won.
But I had this moment, this very melancholy moment as I'm looking at this building and I'm like, oh my God, because whatever, the radio station, the music, whatever. And I was like, oh. And for a second, I did the thing where I was like, well, you screwed that up, Emily, didn't you? You had to be stubborn. And I sat and I was like, you know what? That's actually not going to do me any good. So what can I actually do with this melancholy feeling, and where is this melancholy feeling coming from? And really that melancholy feeling, it was sadness mixed with love. Yeah. And because, I adored him, and we just had this misunderstanding. And really, when I reflect back on it, the misunderstanding that he and I had came at a time where I was going through a divorce. So I was super sensitive about everything. Sure. And he was in a life change. So both of us mindlessly were just very hot button, right? And so instead of being vulnerable and being like, this is how I'm feeling right now, and everything feels like it's scraping at a wound and I'm just struggling, we didn't do that. We were just stubborn. And then I lost many years of friendship because of the stubbornness. So I just kind of had to sit with I actually loved him dearly. I made a not great decision. So what do I do with that now? And so instead of beating myself up, which we tend to do, sure, it is, what are you really feeling? So when you're having that full sensory memory of someone that you lost and you start feeling very sorrowful, okay, that's actually normal. So sit with that feeling. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to you? Sadness, again, is up here on the surface. What is under it? Yeah. You're missing that person because you love them. Or maybe you didn't get to finish something with that person and you are having some regrets. All normal, totally normal. And you should sit with those feelings and process them, write them out. Actually, writing, pencil to paper, not typing, pen to paper, pencil to paper. The actual physical writing will help your brain process better than typing or not doing anything at all. And so, but sitting with those feelings and saying, okay, feelings, I see you. Not like, I know that sounds really dumb, and people are like, probably somebody out there just rolled their eyes, but I'm telling you, if you're like, I see you, I feel you, you're here, it's not going anywhere until you do something. It's sort of like, I'm queen of terrible analogies, but like if your dog keeps nosing at you and you try to ignore the dog's not going away and it's probably going to go poop on your floor. So let's not have that happen in your brain. Okay. So sit with it, figure out where it's coming from, and it's okay to have them. And if I may, can we talk about crying for a second? I saw the comment come up and somebody said,
our tears are such a gift.
Oh, totally. So let's talk about this. So tears are actually a method of cleansing. This is what people don't understand. And so tears get a bad rap. Crying gets a bad rap because, again, in our society, crying is for weak, whatever. No, it's not. So what's cool is understanding the physiology behind tears. So if I am crying, does anyone else cry laughing? Yeah. Have you ever laughed so hard that like tears? Okay. So if you hit your thumb with a hammer, which I have just done like numerous times because we're renovating our house, you have a different chemical composition of tears than if you're crying from sorrow, if you're crying from laughter, if you're crying from heartbreak. Your body has all these nifty mechanisms for ridding itself of toxins. So when you have an overflood if a particular like hormone or like dopamine, not that we cry out dopamine, but if there's like a more oxytocin in your body than should be, you have to get rid of it. And so tears are one way to do that. So crying is a method of cleansing. And so I'd say to people, like, if you have bad sushi and you need to throw up, do you just not because that's weakness? No, you get it out, right? So if you have an overabundance of some kind of stress hormone running through your body, like when you slam your thumb with a hammer, you have got a ton of cortisol and adrenaline running through your body, your body will get rid of it. And so allowing yourself to cry is one way to do that. But sitting with those feelings and allowing the feelings to exist, because they're gonna exist anyway. You might as well sit with it and work through it. There are not to like, I mean, I guess we can talk about my book, but there's a website that goes with my book, and there's a whole journal. It's free. Like there's a whole journals for everything, and there's stuff about journaling through your emotions. And it's not weakness and it's not woo-woo. It's actually necessary for your emotional survival, which in turn is necessary for your physical wellness. So yeah, sit with them. And it's okay. Feel the feels. And then the next time you get hit with that scent or that music or whatever, the hit won't be as hard because you've done some processing. But it's work, and we don't like emotional work because it makes us cry or it makes us uncomfortable or it makes us squirmy, but it's necessary stuff.
Yeah, it really is. So tell us a little bit more about your book and why you created it.
So the book was not ever a thing that I ever thought I was going to do. And like I was never the kind of person that's like, I'm going to be an author. Like that was never, ever a thing. So how this happened was I spent the first part of my career, excuse me, in the nonprofit arena. So from clinical work into administration, into nonprofit development and management. And then I got to a point where I was like, wow, I'm exhausted. I think I'm done with this. And it's time for something different. And like, what can I do with all this? And so what occurred to me, what I was really, really good at in the nonprofit world was organizational effectiveness. It was really like getting all the ducks in a row, which is hilarious because I don't have ducks in a row. I have like squirrels at a rave, but whatever. But in the workplace, like I could really get everything organized and strategized. And I was really good at strategic plans and sitting down doing SWOT analyses. So I'm like, well, I guess that's what I'm going to do. And so I shifted out of nonprofit. I went into academia, which was crazy, and like teaching classes at the collegiate level, which was great. Nonprofit management and also entrepreneurship. So that was a lot of fun. And I'm like, so I like kick off my little business and I'm doing SWOT analyses and strategic plans. And I had this one client that I'm sitting there with this group of executives. And I was like, holy cow, they hate each other. Like it was very apparent. And I thought, we can strategize until the cows come home, but these people do not know how to communicate with each other. And moreover, they do not want to hear each other. And what am I going to do? Because now, when the consultants in the audience know this, like, this is your reputation on the line, right? They've hired you because you're an expert in the field. So you go in and you're seeing this and you're like, oh no, this is not going to go well. Like this is going to be a failure. Like if I don't figure this out. So I said to them, here's what I'm observing. And, what I'm seeing is that there are schisms among this group, and I don't know if you're fully aware of them. And so I worked with them on their communication, but what I ended up really doing was figuring out where kind of the catalyst of the issues. And I sat down with that person and I was like, what is your problem? Right. And it turns out that there are two particular people that had worked together before, and they didn't like each other at that old company. One of them was brought over to this new company, and then unbeknownst to that person, this other person 6 months later came over. So they brought with them this history of they didn't like each other and they were just not going to play well in the sandbox regardless. And so we were able to work through that. But it took what ended up happening, and I'm like telling you a story to tell you a story, but what ended up happening was I was like, oh, it's not the strategy, it's not the SWOT analysis. That actually is like secondary.
Yeah.
It is the dynamics on the team, which really comes down to not just communication, but self-awareness, which is what led me down this massive rabbit hole of mindfulness. And my mindfulness journey was my own, from my own life experiences and needing to get my own head out of my own butt, right? And like, as I'm like dealing with massive life changes and I'm like, whoa, and I'm trying to figure out what to do with myself, and then realizing, oh, I'm totally mindless, and how do I fix that? And I thought, oh my God, these people are totally mindless. So yes, we need to look at communication, and we need to look at do some self-awareness work, but really we have to add some mindfulness to it. So from there, I started doing much more research into communication styles. I'm big into DISC and Enneagram. In the book, I've created what's called the communication compass, which is where I married DISC and Enneagram into the compass. Gives you the same kind of guiding information. And a lot more mindfulness practices, teaching people how to be mindful, teaching them to meditate, teaching them how to calm down, how to pause, do a lot of coaching in that area. And so I created, many years ago, I created the Mindful Leader Practice Workshop, which is this incredibly intense, very powerful, immediately applicable workshop that just broadens people's perspective about themselves and other people, and where are their blind spots, and what are they missing. So a few years ago, I did this workshop for a particularly challenging group. And it went very well. And so one of the members of the group, after the whole thing, we're all, we're breaking and we're all leaving, everyone's done. They're like, you should really write a book. And I literally laughed in this guy's face. I'm like I wasn't like, he said it and it was just this instinctive, like, I just laughed. I'm like, oh no.
Sorry.
And he's like, no, like really? I'm like, oh my, no. And so, and I continue doing these workshops because that's what I do. And I heard it again from another group. They're like, you should really write a book about this. I'm like, you are clearly like high. No, we're not. That's dumb. And so, so then there's a client of mine, and I adore them. They're wonderful. And this one particular person I worked with for a really long time was like, out of nowhere said, you ever thought about writing a book? And I go, you know what? You're like the third person that said that. And nobody is going to read a book that I read. Like, I'm not anybody. I'm not anyone important, whatever. And he goes, well, but you are actually. And you teach people how to think differently. Like, if it weren't for you and this workshop and this information that you've provided, we would still be in this really awful place that we were in a year ago, but we're not now. And it's because of what you taught us. So maybe it should go in a book where you have wider distribution. And I then was like, oh, I never thought about that. Because we don't think about ourselves as anything other than how we see ourselves, right? Like when people call me a subject matter expert, I snicker, but I am. But I'm like, I'm just some like weirdo, like, I don't know. And so I was like, you know what? Okay, fine, I'm going to write this book. So I went with an indie publisher. World Changers Media, oh my God, they're amazing. I had the best experience. It's very daunting sitting down to write a book. And I'm like, and the imposter syndrome was like really loud for a while. And it was a growth experience, but it came from this organic place of wow, y'all are not, you're just trying to like outdo each other and you're really trying to sabotage one another and you need to stop that. And then it just came from this place of that tough love that I was talking about before we started recording, where I was like, y'all are messing up the works and you're being idiots and you need to stop. And I love you and I believe in you, but cut the shit. And that was really where, that's like the vibe of the book, where it's like, get out of your own way. And then you're stubbornly standing in your way because you can't be wrong or whatever, when it's not even about that. Like, learn to put your ego over here and focus on the strategy. And so that was where this book came from. And I get a lot of questions about the cover of the book because there's a meditating llama. So I have to tell you my llama story. So when my oldest son was in first grade, we went on a field trip to the zoo, and there was a petting zoo. All right. And I don't know what they had fed the animals prior to us getting there, but oh my word. I mean, the goats were like all insane. It was like everything's hyper. And these first graders who are smaller than most of the goats, right? They have handfuls, you know, they give you the food.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
of course, all the goats are like swarming these children. Now the children are like screaming, they're running around. Well, the children are screaming, running around. The goats are freaking out. They're also running around. And then I don't know if people are familiar with goat poop, but it's like pellets, right? So now we have these first graders that think that the goat pellets are actually food. So now they're picking up, and I'm watching the teachers, and I'm like, I'm chaperoning, and I'm like, I'm going to stand over here. And in this insane, chaotic situation where there's sheep and goats that are literally running amok, there is this llama that is standing in the corner, totally stoic, just chewing on hay. You can see it's watching the whole thing and just standing there in its llama-ness. And I was like, damn, that is the way to be among all the chaos, right? And so that image has stuck, and I love llamas anyway, but that image has stuck with me. And I'm like, I'm going to be the llama. I'm going to be the llama among the goats. How do I make the llama among the goats? And so that was where the inspiration for the book cover. But it really did come from this organic place of me being like, holy shit, y'all, what are you doing? And then I wrote the book, and it's like, here's how. So there's like a whole lot of neuroscience in the book, and a ton of psychology, social psychology. We talk a lot about culture. And then there are some anecdotes that go along with here's some examples, but there's a how-to guide. Like, here is what is happening, and here is how you can do the thing so that you can be more mindful, or you can catch yourself in moments of mindlessness, and how to shift. And not only how to shift, but how to give yourself grace and space to shift. You know, Sandra, you talked earlier about like that whole, when you start feeling the feelings and you want to get rid of it, it's like, no, don't do that. No. If you do something, if you mess something up, own it, sit with it, learn from it, laugh at yourself, and shift. Because it's in that moment that you actually let go of the weight of other people's expectations, and you let go of the weight of your own ego. And that's where mindfulness really starts to bloom.
Yeah.
So beautiful. I love it. And I love the story about the llama.
Because I just want to, as we sign off, I just want to clarify, you said you can make the shift.
Shift.
Yes.
Yes.
Not
Shift
something else. Yes.
I mean, you can make something else too, but it would be better if you made the shift with an F. Yes.
Yes. All right, Annette.
Oh my gosh. Emily, share the best ways that people can connect with you and your wonderful ideas.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm on LinkedIn, Emily Hampton Morash. If you want to find me and chat, that's fine. I also have an Instagram page for the book. It's Unfunk _ with an N, Unfunk _ book _ oh no, I'm sorry, Unfunk _ yourself _ book. And so people can find me there, have conversations. It's what's really fun is I randomly get messages from people. They're like, I just finished your book. I'm like, oh my God, you read my book? Where'd you find it? Like, it's just because when you write a book, like if I were somebody like Brene Brown or like somebody important, right?
Like
I
Annette
would be like,
Garsteck.
oh yeah, like Annette. People would be like, I read your book. Be like, I know, everyone reads my book, right?
Right.
But this is like, oh my God, you did? And so, okay, so we have conversations, and I have people who will message and be like, I have this issue at work and I don't know what to do. And so I will sit with people and be like, well, here's a thought and here's some questions, and have you thought about this? And like, tell me a little bit about, so there's that. And then the book, unfunkyourselfbook.com. is where you can find a link to where to purchase the book if you're so inclined. And it's on like all sorts of online resellers. But on that website, there is a tab called the work. There's a tab called the guidance. And then there's a tab called the quiz. So the work, it's the journals. They're free. They are free. Please use them. The guidance are a bunch of guided meditations and these 30-second little pep talks where if you're having a bad day, you pop one of those in and I'm on there telling you that you're a badass. And just little 30-second love notes, right? And then the quiz is the communication quiz. And I strongly recommend that people go onto the website, look at the quiz, take it, and then have your coworkers take it, have your family take it. Because when you see, and there's a whole guide of like, what does it mean? And if you're this style, how do you work with this style kind of thing? It's a roadmap for how to navigate people who are very different than you, who are very similar, and you might lock horns. But that's where you find me. And my business website is hamptonmorash.com. And so, but you can find me in all sorts of places. And I love to have the conversation. So I really do welcome people to find me on social media or on the website, and let's chat.
I love it. That sounds amazing. Well, we were so lucky to have you here with us today and teaching us so many amazing things while having such a good conversation as well. And let's stay connected.
All right. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for opening your podcast. I always say to people, thank you for opening your home, because really this is sort of your mind home, and you've allowed me in to have these conversations, and I get to hang out with your audience and chat a little bit. This has been such an honor, and I am so grateful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on this episode of Exposing the Hidden Reality. If something hit home or made you snort laugh, tell us.
Seriously, we love hearing from you. Message us, tag us, or send us coffee. We love coffee.
And hey, leave a review. It helps more women find us and boosts our egos.
Which are like fragile, like suspiciously fragile.
True. All right, until next time, keep questioning, keep growing, and if all else fails,
blame the dog.
See you next time. Wait, did we stop recording?
No, we're still here. You have to push the red button.
Red button. Cool. Just eternal podcast.
Bye.
Bye.